This is what the narcissist never thought you would do that makes them regret it until they die. Have you ever imagined the impact of taking actions a narcissist would never expect? Those actions that, instead of weakening you, set you free and leave them filled with regret. Today, we'll explore these transformative actions, steps that not only break the cycle of manipulation, but also restore your inner strength. And what makes this even more powerful? The teachings of Stoicism. They show us that true freedom comes from within, from the control we exert over our responses and choices. Get ready, because this is the moment when you take control and redefine your story. The first action a narcissist would never expect you to take is setting firm boundaries. To them, boundaries are like walls that threaten their control. But for you, these walls are essential. They're the first step in reclaiming your peace and autonomy. As the Stoics teach, recognizing what's within our control is the foundation of a fulfilling life. Your boundaries are just that, a way to assert control over your energy, your attention, and most importantly, the respect you demand. Let's explore how to do this together. Have you ever felt trapped in a cycle where no matter how much you do, it never seems to be enough? Where your needs and boundaries seem to vanish amidst the chaos? If so, you're not alone. Boundaries are like emotional fences that define where you end and the other begins. When dealing with a narcissist, these fences are often torn down. Narcissists are masters at invading emotional spaces. They test, provoke, manipulate, and before you know it, your boundaries have been erased as if they never existed. But here's the big revelation. You have the power to rebuild these fences and keep them strong. It might not be easy at first, but setting clear boundaries is an act of courage and self-respect. It's like saying, I matter, my needs matter, and I will no longer allow anyone to cross these lines. Now, you might be wondering, but what if they don't accept it? What if they get angry or try to manipulate me? This is where real strength comes in. When you start enforcing your boundaries, the narcissist will likely resist. They may react with anger, guilt-tripping, or manipulative tactics. But do you know what that really means? That you're on the right path. Setting boundaries is a powerful act of self-worth. Picture yourself as a fortress. Your boundaries are the walls that protect your inner peace from external intrusions. It's not just about keeping toxic behavior out, but creating a safe space where you can thrive. Remember this, saying no isn't an act of rejection, but an act of affirmation. By enforcing boundaries, you're not just protecting yourself, you're also setting a standard for how you want to be treated moving forward. So I challenge you to reflect. Where in your life do you need to set boundaries? What are those situations where your energy feels drained, where your values are ignored? Think about it and, more importantly, start taking action. Because when you define your boundaries, you not only change the dynamics of the relationship, you change yourself. And that's the first step to regaining control over your life. We're in this journey together. Let's strengthen our emotional fences and make our peace non-negotiable. 2. Prioritizing healing and self-care. Have you ever stopped to think about how often we put others' needs ahead of our own, to the point of losing ourselves? In toxic relationships, especially with narcissists, this becomes a common trap. Gradually, you find yourself so consumed by meeting their demands that you forget to take care of your own essence. But today, I want to remind you of something fundamental. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's an act of temperance, as Stoicism teaches. It's about finding the balance needed to maintain your strength and resilience. It's an act of self-love that frees you from the emotional chains others have tried to place on you. When you choose to prioritize your healing and well-being, something incredible happens. You start to rebuild your self-esteem, rediscover who you truly are, without the filters of manipulation and abuse. Therapy, meditation, exercise, or even simple quiet moments with a good book. These aren't luxuries, they're powerful tools for your recovery. Narcissists don't expect you to take this path. They rely on your emotional exhaustion and your need for external validation. But when you decide to invest in your own healing, you completely destabilize the control they thought they had over you. And do you know what's most liberating? Every step you take towards self-care is a silent yet powerful declaration that your life is back in your hands. Now I want to ask you, what are you doing today for yourself? What brings you peace, joy, or even a small moment of tranquility? Because healing doesn't happen all at once. It comes from small steps you choose to take daily. What small act of self-care can you practice today, right now, to strengthen yourself? Remember, you deserve your own love and attention. Every moment you dedicate to your well-being is a seed planted for a stronger, healthier, and more authentic future. So, let's prioritize what truly matters. You. Invest in your healing, practice self-care, and watch as your inner light begins to shine again, even after the darkest days. Your path to emotional freedom starts now. 3. Educating yourself about narcissism. Have you ever wondered why, despite all the pain, you still feel tied to someone who clearly doesn't have your best interests at heart? Or why, in certain moments, you doubt your own perceptions? If so, know that you're not alone. What you need now is something that will completely transform your perspective. Knowledge. Understanding narcissism isn't just an act of curiosity, it's an act of empowerment. When you begin to educate yourself about what it truly means to deal with a narcissist, everything starts to make sense. The emotional games, the subtle manipulations, the gaslighting that makes you question your own reality, none of it is a coincidence. It's a pattern. Narcissists thrive in the chaos they create. They rely on your lack of information and your confusion to maintain control. But here's the secret. Knowledge is a powerful tool because it gives you back control over your responses. As the Stoics teach, focusing on what is within our control is the key to emotional freedom. When you learn to identify manipulative tactics, you take away their most powerful weapon, your ignorance. Imagine being able to predict the moves of someone who once seemed always a step ahead. Imagine knowing with certainty that the problem was never you, but the toxic environment you were placed in. That's the power of educating yourself about narcissism. Now I ask you, how much do you really know about the dynamics of a narcissistic relationship? If your answer is not much, understand that every minute you invest in learning is a step toward your emotional freedom. Reading articles, watching videos, seeking support in groups of people who have experienced similar situations, all these expand your perspective and provide the tools you need to resist future abuse. It's like turning on a light in a room that was once dark. Suddenly, everything that seemed confusing becomes clear. Knowledge is power. And when you start to understand what you're up against, you realize you no longer have to submit to these patterns. You gain the strength to say no, and more importantly, to never doubt yourself again. Let's embark on this journey of discovery together, because the more you know, the stronger you become. The truth sets you free, and your freedom begins now. 4. Radical acceptance and letting go of the past. How many times have you found yourself replaying the same scenario, thinking, if only they would admit what they did, if only they'd apologize? This quest for validation, for closure, can seem inevitable. But what if I told you that the path to peace isn't in their hands, but within you? Here's where a powerful concept comes in. Radical acceptance. Accepting, fully and unequivocally, that some things will never be the way you wish they were. The narcissist will likely never offer a sincere apology. They will never admit to their manipulations. And you know what? That's okay, because you don't need that to move forward. Radical acceptance doesn't mean condoning what happened or diminishing the pain. It simply means acknowledging reality as it is and choosing not to fight against it. And that choice is liberating. When you let go of the past, you reclaim control over your story. It's like releasing a weight you didn't realize you were carrying. Just as a Stoic lets go of what they cannot change, you free yourself from the invisible chains of the past. And in letting go, you realize that true freedom lies in no longer depending on that emotional tug-of-war. I know it may seem difficult at first. After all, who wouldn't want to hear an apology or have their pain acknowledged? But ask yourself, how long will I wait for something that may never come? That waiting only prolongs the suffering. Letting go of the past doesn't erase the pain, but it allows it to stop being the center of your life. Over time, you'll realize that true closure doesn't come from the person who hurt you, but from your ability to heal and move forward. Radical acceptance is an invitation to live in the present without the emotional ties to the past. It's about finding peace even without the answers you thought you needed. So, I ask you, what can you let go of today? Remember, the past is beyond our control. What is in our hands is how we choose to move forward from here. What memories, expectations, or resentments are weighing on your shoulders? Release them, because when you accept and let go, you create space for something greater, the inner peace that only you can build. Let's walk this path together. Your story doesn't end in the past. It begins now, with your choice to move forward. 5. Refusing to re-enter the cycle of abuse. Have you noticed how certain relationships seem to follow a repetitive pattern? At first, it feels like you're the center of that person's universe. You're praised, valued, idealized. But then, suddenly, everything changes. The criticisms begin, the manipulations intensify, and you feel devalued, eventually discarded as if you never mattered. This is the cycle of abuse, an emotional roller coaster that starts with idealization, moves to devaluation, and ends in discard. The cruelest part? The cycle doesn't stop there. The narcissist often returns full of promises to change, trying to pull you back into the same destructive pattern. But today, I want to remind you of something powerful. You don't have to play this game anymore. Saying no to their return is an act of courage and self-love. I know that during the idealization phase, it can be tempting to believe that this time things will be different. After all, who wouldn't want to believe in promises of change? But the reality is, these promises rarely materialize. The cycle resumes and the pain returns. So let me ask you, how many times have you given another chance, hoping for a different ending? Now is the time to break that pattern. Refusing to re-enter the cycle of abuse is an act of bravery, a core Stoic virtue. It's a declaration of your worth and a way to safeguard your integrity. When you say no to empty promises, you're saying yes to yourself. You're choosing your peace, your freedom, and your emotional well-being. And do you know what's even more powerful? Each time you resist this dynamic, you grow stronger. Narcissists don't expect you to become independent. They count on your vulnerability and your desire to believe. But by refusing to re-enter the cycle, you strip them of the control they thought they had over you. You deserve more than emotional crumbs, more than an endless pattern of pain. And the good news? You have the strength to say, enough. Let's break these cycles together, because the first step toward a life of truth and authenticity begins when you decide never to return to what destroys you. The power is in your hands, and your freedom starts now. 6. Rebuilding your life and thriving. If you've been through a toxic relationship, especially with a narcissist, you might have heard that insidious voice whispering, "You'll never be the same. Without me, you won't make it." But I'm here to tell you, nothing could be further from the truth. The end of a destructive relationship isn't the final chapter of your story. In fact, it's the beginning of something much greater, the rebuilding of your life. When you walk away from a narcissist, they expect you to remain broken, lost, trapped in a cycle of pain. But what they didn't anticipate is your ability to rise from the ashes, to come back stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. Now is the time to rediscover who you truly are. What are your dreams, your passions, your goals? What was set aside while you struggled to survive that relationship? This is the moment to reconnect with them and create a life that reflects what you truly value. It might feel daunting at first. You might wonder, where do I even begin? The answer lies in small steps. Maybe it's exploring a new hobby, investing in your career, or simply spending time with people who support and value you. Each small victory is a deliberate step in practicing Stoic virtues daily, helping to build a solid and resilient life. And here's the most gratifying part. Each time you thrive, you defy all of the narcissist's expectations. They bet on your fragility, but you're proving that your strength far exceeds what they ever imagined. Rebuilding your life isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving. It's about living with purpose, joy, and fulfillment. It's about showing yourself that you are so much more than the pain you've endured. So I invite you to reflect. What's the next step you can take toward your future? How can you, today, apply Stoic teachings to keep moving forward with purpose? Be bold, be confident, believe that the best is yet to come, because it is. Let's build this new chapter together. Your story of overcoming is powerful, and every day you're creating a life that reflects who you truly are. And remember, your growth is the ultimate proof that you were never meant to stay down. 7. Learning to say no without guilt. How many times have you said yes when everything inside you was screaming no? The truth is, many of us are conditioned to believe that saying no is rude, selfish, or even an act of rejection. But today, I want to remind you, saying no is one of the most powerful acts of self-love you can practice. For those who are or have been trapped in a relationship with a narcissist, learning to say no might feel impossible. Narcissists are masters at emotional manipulation, making you feel guilty for the slightest resistance. They rely on your compliance, your desire to please, to maintain control. But here's what they didn't expect. You have the right to say no, and without guilt. Saying no is not an act of coldness, but one of wisdom and fairness. It means being true to your principles and respecting your priorities. It's about acknowledging your limits, your needs, and choosing to honor them over someone else's expectations. When you start doing this, you'll realize something remarkable. The world doesn't fall apart when you say no. On the contrary, it aligns with what truly matters to you. Now let me ask you, how often have you felt overwhelmed because you said yes to something you didn't want? How many times did you agree just to avoid conflict or guilt? It's time to rewrite that narrative. Saying no assertively is a milestone of emotional self-defense. It's the difference between living to please others and living according to your own values. Yes, the narcissist will push back. They might try to manipulate, guilt trip, or even accuse you of being selfish. But remember, the guilt they try to impose on you isn't yours to carry. Your decisions don't need to be justified to someone who doesn't respect your boundaries. Like the Stoics teach, you can't control others' reactions, but you can control your integrity by making decisions that align with your values. With every no you say, you reaffirm your worth. You prove to yourself that you deserve respect and that your peace is non-negotiable. So next time you feel that weight of obligation or guilt, take a deep breath and ask yourself, is this something I truly want to do? If the answer is no, give yourself permission to say just that, and let go of the emotional burden of trying to please others at your own expense. Let's practice the power of no together as an act of emotional freedom, because every time you say no to what doesn't serve you, you're saying yes to the life you deserve. 8. Exposing the narcissist's true nature. Behind every narcissist lies a carefully crafted facade, the image of someone charming, generous, perhaps even altruistic. But you know the truth. You've seen the other side, the side few people get to see, and now it's time to bring that truth to light. Exposing the narcissist's true nature isn't an act of revenge. It's not about destroying someone or seeking retaliation. It's about justice. It's about reclaiming your voice and protecting others from falling into the same traps. Narcissists thrive on silence. They rely on your shame, on your fear of not being believed to keep control. But when you choose to expose what's hidden, something powerful happens. You break the cycle of power they've built. Now you might be thinking, but what if no one believes me? It's a valid concern, but remember, truth, as the Stoics believed, is one of the most powerful weapons. It doesn't need embellishment because its strength lies in its essence. Even if initially some choose to believe the facade, over time patterns become impossible to ignore. By sharing your experience, you not only validate yourself, but also offer guidance to those who might be lost in the same type of relationship. Exposing the narcissist is also an essential step in your healing journey. It's your chance to reclaim your narrative, to tell your story without the distortions that were imposed on you. It's your way of saying, this happened to me, but it doesn't define me. I am stronger than any manipulation used against me. Of course, the narcissist's reaction may be explosive. They might try to discredit you, twist facts, or even play the victim. But here's the point. Your truth doesn't rely on their validation or anyone else's. The goal isn't to convince everyone, but to free yourself from the burden of carrying this story alone. And now I ask you, how many people could be spared the same pain if you had the courage to speak up? Your voice might be the beacon that prevents someone else from falling into a manipulator's grasp. Let's break the silence together. Exposing the narcissist's true nature is an act of courage, but also of compassion for yourself and for everyone who could benefit from your truth. Because justice isn't about revenge. It's about empowerment. And today, you have the power to shine a light on what was once hidden in the shadows. 9. Embracing the journey of self-discovery. After everything you've been through, it's natural to ask yourself, what now? Who am I beyond this pain? Overcoming narcissistic abuse isn't just about leaving the past behind, it's about rediscovering yourself. And this journey of self-discovery is a path that, while challenging, leads you to something extraordinary, an authentic life. The journey isn't linear. There will be days when you feel strong, ready to take on the world, and others when the pain might resurface, even as a distant echo. But every step, no matter how small, is a victory. Because by moving forward, you are choosing to free yourself from the role the narcissist tried to impose on you. This is the essence of self-discovery, shedding the identities others forced upon you and courageously exploring who you truly are. What are your passions, your values, your strengths? This is your opportunity to know yourself deeply and live a life aligned with what truly matters to you. Here's where Stoicism becomes a powerful source of wisdom. The Stoics teach us that while we cannot control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond. This philosophy invites you to see suffering not as an obstacle, but as fertile ground for growth. Ask yourself, what lessons can you take from this experience? How has the pain shaped your resilience, your courage, your wisdom? Embracing the journey of self-discovery is an act of resistance and rebirth. It's declaring, I am not what happened to me. I am who I choose to become from this point forward. And each new day is an opportunity to write a different, more truthful and vibrant chapter. This path is yours. Each step you take is a conscious choice to live fully, to reconnect with your essence, and to leave behind the shadows that once kept you from shining. So, I ask you, who do you want to be moving forward? The answers are within you, waiting to be uncovered. Let's embark on this journey together, because self-discovery isn't just about finding out who you are. It's about embracing your wholeness and living with purpose, resilience, and authenticity. As the Stoics taught, the future is beyond our control, but the present is where we act. Live with virtue today, and the future will take care of itself.